Welcome back to my channel, Classic Volkswagen Lovers. This is Junior with Classic VW Bucks and Sonny the Super Beetle Full Restoration. In today's video, I am going to share with you the installation of the aftermarket thermostat for your Type 1 engine. So if you are in a budget, you probably may want to go ahead and buy the aftermarket replacement thermostat. This is what the original looks like. This is the original bracket, and that's the thermostat. If you ever look at your Type 1 engine and your thermostat looks like that, that means that your thermostat needs to be replaced. Its fatigue is no longer good. So you are going to need to either replace it for the same type, original one, or you may be able to get the aftermarket one for around $40 to $50. There's a slight modification that you will have to do, and I will walk you through that. Okay, before we do anything, what you want to do is make sure that your fan shroud has the safety spring that keeps the flaps in the fan shroud open in case of a thermostat fail. So what we're going to do next is we're going to take a walk around the engine and show you where that spring is located. This right here is the back of your fan shroud. This is your blower right here. So in the event that your thermostat fails, your flaps are normally open. And that's what we want to make sure. So before you go about changing your thermostat and doing all kinds of stuff, make sure your spring it's installed in there. And what that does, it keeps the flaps open. Looking at your engine sideways, your thermostat is going to be located between piston number 1 and number 2. And what we're about to do now is I'm going to roll this on the side so you can see that location. I'm going to show you exactly where your thermostat connects and how it's mounted in your engine case. So this is the original bracket with the thermostat. So the way that this is actually installed, if you're replacing it for an original one, you will have to first thread it into a linkage rod that it's between the heads right here. So your thermostat actually threads into this rod here that when your engine it's hot, it will open the flaps in your shroud to allow airflow through your heads and cool them down. When your engine is cold, your thermostat will be in the closed position because it will pull the flaps down like so. So normally, if you were replacing your thermostat for a original one, this here will thread right here, like so. And then carefully slide the bracket on the side and get the thermostat in between the bracket. Align it with the bracket, align the bracket to the stud in the engine case, and then install your bolt at the bottom of the thermostat. Be careful not to overstress the thermostat. With this threaded all the way in, the way you know that your thermostat is actually good, you will have that much gap above it. So to set the original thermostat, you would have to thread this all the way in, and then with your thermostat loose right here, move the bracket up and down until the bracket touches the top portion of your original thermostat. Install the bolt to secure a thermostat, pull bracket down and install the nut. With the replacement, we're going to have to modify this bracket. In other words, we're going to have to remove this top portion here to be able to install the aftermarket one. So for this job, like I mentioned, you're going to need a power drill. I would recommend to have a pilot bit of a 1/8 before you use your 5/16 or your 1/4 inch bit, because what we're going to do is, if you see this here, those two spots that you see there are the factory spot welds for this bracket. What we're gonna do is we're going to drill those out, and then we'll take a chisel and a hammer, which I forgot to mention, you also will need a chisel and a hammer. And then once we drill these out, we'll put this into a vice grip, and then we'll just take our chisel and hit it in this point right here to remove this top portion from this bottom portion right here. And then we'll go ahead and modify that to install this piece here. Once you drill out the spot welds right there and there's two of them, then you will take your chisel like this, put this in a vice grip, and then you want to hammer, you want to hit it right there to remove this portion from this portion here. I have already done mine, but I will show you exactly what I did. See, this part here and this part here were together once, and you can see that the holes are a perfect alignment. That's where the spot welds were at. That's where I drill out the spot welds, and then I hammered it and took it apart, and then I had it dipped into a Rust-Oleum rust dissolver solution, and I spray painted with a primer to avoid it from rusting, and then later on I will actually spray paint it black to protect it more. So what you want to do is, once you remove this part, you want to align it over the actual hole that you have there. There's only one thing else that you will have to do. This thermostat has an alignment pin, and that pin, if you are going to try to install this over the original hole here, so what you will have to do is you will have to find your best center alignment in here in this hole, your best center alignment, and then notice that I have a little notch right there. With another drill bit, you can open a tiny hole and then get a file, and then file it until you get this thermostat here to be a perfect alignment with that. So you can see that now my thermostat sits flat in the bracket, and you can see there where the little alignment pin is showing on the other side of the bracket. Okay, once you do that, it's go ahead and install it. The other thing that I would also recommend is to have a washer bigger than the one that the thermostat comes with, to add it on, so that you can provide a better fastening surface to here, because notice how that nut goes through, and notice how the little washer that comes with it is no more bigger than the nut. So it will fasten in place, but I don't guarantee it's gonna stay there for a long time. So I personally would rather use a wider or a bigger washer that I can put there as a safety. So once you have completed the modification of your actual bracket, then you want to go ahead and thread your new thermostat into the linking rod that you have here. One other thing I will mention, notice that this thermostat has a sort of like a Kirby offset right here. Be aware that when you're threading it, it might hit your your pusher-up tube. So you want to make sure that when you're done treading it, it's aligned in a fashion that this is not hitting against this pusher-up tube right here. So we're going to install it. Make sure this is slightly snugged in when you install this one, because you're going to have to remove this nut. So you install your thermostat. I want to bring this closer to the camera so you can see this. If you notice right here, the little offset rod right there is now beginning to pretty much touch your pusher-up tube. So you want to go ahead and keep on treading that. You want to tread this all the way in, and pretty much you want to make sure that you snug it right with your hand, just hand tight. And notice how now my offset is on the top, which is a good thing for me. And remember that my flaps right now are in the open position because I do have the safety fail, a spring wire in the back that holds the flaps in the normally open position. So the next thing you want to do is you want to grab your modify bracket, and then you want to break this nut loose right here. You want to take that spring washer out. And then after you do that, you want to find the alignment, the proper alignment. That's why you only have to snug it with the little notch that you made earlier. Notice that at this point, my bracket bottom part is almost on the top of the stud that it's in the engine case. So I'm going to put that on the side so you can see it. It's right there. So to adjust it, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put this nut here with the spring washer here, and also I'm going to use a bigger washer along with my other washer. So for demonstration purposes, I'm going to use this old rusty one, okay? At this point, what we're doing is we're aligning the alignment pin with the little notch that we made in our modify bracket. And that's the first thing you want to do, keeping in mind that and remembering that your flaps are in the open position. So I'm going to take this nut here, then notice how I'm aligning this already with the stud that it's in the engine case. Then you want to grab your that's a 12mm socket. You can use a combination wrench, and then you want to snug it first. You don't want to tighten it all the way yet. And then remember that at this point my flaps are in the open position. So now I want to pull this. You heard how that sound like a snap, it closed. So at that point I want to be in the close position, because the goal is so that when the engine heads heat up, the thermostat will actually push the flaps open. So now at this point I can go ahead and install my nut here. I can also put a spring washer here. Put that right there, and then we'll put our nut. we pull this back. This nut here, in my case, it's a 13. So I'll pull this back in place where I need it. And that pretty much completes the installation, and that's what it looks like. Then you replace your metal tins back on, and you should be fine. Well friends, and that there completes the video tutorial on how to install your aftermarket replacement thermostat for your Type 1 engine. If you like the video, if you like the contents, please don't forget to subscribe, like, and don't forget to hit that little bell so that every time I upload a video, you get a new notification and you can see the progress of Sonny the Super Beetle. Until then, this is Junior with Classic VW Buck and Sonny the Super Beetle Junior out.